Hello, all of you gorgeous souls. Welcome back to another episode. Woo, woo, woo.
Woo!
We did it. We made it. Yeah. I just want to thank you all for all of your feedback for episode number one. For starting, we've had such positive feedback into sharing our stories, and that just lit a fire in our ass to continue moving forward, right, and sharing more within our journeys and within this space and within the spirituality and all the woo woo magic which we will start to get into. But we thought that we would really love to share our journey in our friendship and how that came about, what our friendship looks like, and the way and to the reason as to why we were able to build such a foundational friendship, which is not like anything that I've ever experienced in my fucking life. Not this life, anyway. Other lives, yes, with you, Mon. Like we've spoken about this and we've visioned it, we've meditated on it, we've seen it, we've felt it, we know it. It's something within our being and within our soul that is yeah, just inexplainable. But
Mhm.
before we get into that, we really want to touch on the Miss Independent and um, I don't need no one kind of mentality or toxicity, as we can call it, because it's not necessarily a mindset. It's a toxic trait to be conditioned to believe and to have. Part of that is patriarchal conditioning to keep us all separated and not allow us to come together as women and use our magic, use our power, our purpose, our love, our creation. But a part of that is also the conditioning that we're taught to believe that women can do it on their own. Or I'm not saying that we can't. Like, of course we can, right? I've been a single mom for a very long time and I raised my children on my own, financially and by myself as well. But it doesn't mean that that's ideal, and that mindset of I don't need a man or I don't need no one is just toxic bullshit, right?
Mm.
Like the power of community is what got us to where we are today. And it's the reason that we do what we do and us moving forward and really leaning into that. So I'm wondering, Mon, if you can share into and lean into what that kind of looked like for you. And then I'll share with
Yeah.
what that meant for me.
Yeah, beautiful. For the longest time, I was fiercely independent. And growing up in a family of 4 girls, my parents definitely raised us, and like, this is fucking epic, but also limiting, that we can do anything and we don't need a man. And so I created a very successful career. I saved a lot of money. I bought a house with my sister whilst I had a partner. And I hustled and I I wanted to do it all. So like I would mow the lawns, I would like whilst I had a partner, I would mow the lawns, I would hustle to make the most money, I would do all the cleaning, I would I would just do everything. And I never really let him in. And I see independence as this thing today that is so celebrated, right? It's like we have these individual career paths and we have these individual goals and we have my house, my money, my one life partner. And I honestly see and think back to my independence and how independent I was. And it created so much loneliness and so much separation and so much disconnection because it wasn't like me and my family and my partner and my lovers and my sisters working together as like a community to like go after and like create this life of abundance. It was me on my own, even though I had all that love around me. And I think back and like my soul craves this to like where we used to live in the village and everyone would have like their separate roles and everyone would contribute to the community and share and we would flourish together. And that's something that our friendship has allowed me to come back to is like letting you in and like asking for help and letting your strengths guide me whilst I have my own fucking strengths and your strengths don't take away from mine. And I also think that something really powerful is
They
in like
add
the oh
they add
yeah.
power to the strength, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And I was learning this the other week. It was like the indigenous cultures and like the African cultures for the longest time, they never even had a word for self. Like the word self didn't exist in those cultures because
Wow.
yeah, they were one. And so I think this fierce independence, whether you're aware of it or not, is leading to the loneliness and the suffering and the separation and the disconnection that I see everywhere. Mm.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. And I can relate from the other part and the other term of it from um, not needing anyone. Like when I grew up, I shared my story about growing up as an only child and growing up with no father around and just my mum who had severe brain damage and home wasn't very safe, right? So I was always on my own. In saying that, I was playing with, you know, the neighborhood kids and everything, but I always found, and this is a lot to do with my witch, with my witch archetype and my witch knowing self, right? I love being alone, and even still to this day, I would much prefer being on my own in ceremony than being in a big space. But there's a difference between secluding yourself and having that toxic mentality is I don't need no one, I don't need no friends, rather than just choosing to be alone at times, compared to putting yourself in communities where these people, like you said, add to your values and lift you up. But I know for me that I kind of was, I guess, not conditioned in that way, but I guess I just kind of grew up that way. So when I'd had my, when I'd left my oldest two children's father, and I was then a single mum of two kids, I was like, well, I've got this. You watch me. I'm going to build my business, and I'm going to, you are not going to help pay for the kid, pay with the kids, and help out. Then I've got this, and then I built that. I don't need a fucking man mentality. And then I also built due to friendships that didn't serve me, trauma bonds like alcohol versus alcohol and just night outs, friendships, all those surface level friendships, right? And I built this mentality that I don't need anyone. And that led to years of loneliness, like fucking years of loneliness. Like I used to drink on my own because like I had three kids and couldn't, there was a lot of time I didn't have any support. So there was a lot of time that I couldn't really go out or do anything. So I'd kind of just drink at my place or drink by myself, and I would seclude myself from people and communities. But it just spiraled me into this whirlpool of toxicity. I don't need anyone. I've got this. I can work on my own. I can, pay for my own car. And in relationships, because of the very first kind of relationship that I had with my older two children's father, we were together for 6.5 years, and his stuff was his and mine was mine, but not because I wanted it that way, because he taught me that that's how it was. Your money is your money. For example, like I would have to ask him if I could borrow $20 to buy our daughter nappies. So that built that mentality of like, I have to be this way to survive, and to be a mom, I must do all of the things. But, after years of doing that, it became really exhausting, but it became really lonely too. And then when I
Mm.
started to do the inner work on myself and I started to immerse myself in communities, I started to realize that all of the friendships that I'd ever had were built on me and this Miss Independent toxicity. So it was no wonder that I had surface level friendships. I couldn't build those intimate connections like with what we have. Was unable to do that because of the mentality that I was living in, which was the only thing that I knew. But I see it today continuously. It's a continual thing, especially in the single parenting way. I still hear women say it all the time. I don't need no one. I don't need a man. And it's like, well, honey, no, we're not saying that you must have one. There's a difference between must have one to, I crave that love and that, attention and affection and that sensuality that I deserve in my womanness. I deserve that, there's a huge difference there.
Yeah, I feel that. And as you're speaking into that, do you remember that image, and it's a man and he's like chiseling himself out of stone, and his top half is like lean and muscular and his bottom half is like bulging and it's like obese.
Yeah.
He's like chiseling himself out. And I think of that as us like trying to create who we are on our own, and to heal, and to create the life we desire on our own. And that message of that man like chiseling himself out, I think that message is so far from how we thrive. Like, you can go and ask your sisters to help chisel you the fuck out, and it will be way easier, way more loving. You will go way deeper with yourself. It will be more profound. You will go to levels that you never knew you could go to because other people are helping you. But a lot of what we have been taught is to do it alone, like to
Mm.
be that lone ranger.
Mm. And the thing with healing is you can only get to a certain point, or even just with life in general, you can only get to a certain point before you can't see your shadows or your darkness, or you can't see your blind spots anymore. So if you don't have that community around you to say, "Hey, sister," or "Hey,
Mhm.
brother," things aren't like you're not seeing this thing. Maybe you could see things a little bit differently. You just won't grow. You'll just continue in that stagnant place.
Yeah, I feel that. And I also like taking a little swivel out. I also think about a lot of the time when I used to think of community and be like, and feel resistance towards putting myself in community, was because of what I have been taught, like the female relationship and friendship is. Like, for me growing up, I was taught through like TV programs, through women I was around, through friendships I had, through all of the things that I was exposed to, that female relationships are gossiping, they are comparison, they are judgment, they are competition. And so when I used to think about putting myself in communities, I didn't want to show up because I was like, they're going to judge the fuck out of me. And so until I had like healed myself enough to actually not judge the crap out of myself and start to put myself in spaces where I could speak my truth, I had never been able to have friendships like this, or even understand that this was available to women, because it wasn't throughout my whole life.
Yeah, I really feel that. I really feel that, sister. See, I felt the same when I was younger. Like all of the friendships that I had was all based on comparison. It was like even the girls in school would compete against each other, who could get the boy, or, who was the prettiest, or who had the most money, or, who showed up in a specific way, who had the nicest things. It was always this comparison game. And I know even for me at home, with my mom and her brain damage, like she didn't see things normally. So she would even make comments with like girls that would be on TV, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, why would she wear that?" You know what I mean? And that instilled in me as a little girl that women should not wear specific things, or they shouldn't act a certain way, or a woman would be called a slut if she had slept with too many men. And it's like, seriously, this is just bullshit. You know what I mean? Like you kind of get to that point where you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense anymore. Like we we have sex for a reason. We have a sex. We are supposed to be connecting and creating that magic, stirring that fucking cauldron within us, right? Like really tap into that sexuality, have sex with all of the men, experiment, and then realize what it is that you actually truly desire, what you truly want. And yeah, I know for me, when I started healing my sisterhood wounds, my number one sisterhood wound was comparison. I would find that I would compare myself to other women no matter what. Like, no matter what, whether they had bigger boobs, a bigger bum, whether they looked prettier, whether they had thicker hair, whether they had longer lashes than me, would just
Mhm.
consistently compare. Like, I'd walk into the gym and I'd be all of a sudden, striking a pose because there was a really pretty girl next to me, and I would be like this instant comparison without even realizing that I was doing it. And I would find that this judgment would just consistently come up with, if not myself, but others as well. And yeah, it can be really hard to shake that, but really tapping in and understanding that is a big problem in society, um, with not only women today, but it's always really been there ever since. If we want to go all the way back to the witch hunting days where they would tear women against each other based on accusation. Women became too powerful. Oh no, women can't be more powerful than men. God forbid. Let's strip them down. Let's tear them down. Let's turn them against each other. But worse off, let's turn them against themselves.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that. And I even think about, as you're saying that, like, because I think about the connection that we have and how close we are and how passionately loving we are towards each other. And I think about, like, growing up in my household, there was so much shame around same sex relationships. And so, like, my parents would make jokes out of it so that it didn't sound so bad, but they were judging it. And I think about hundreds of years ago, like, being lesbian was so dangerous and so shamed upon. And so any woman that would come too close and create too close a connection would be seen as that. So you wouldn't even create the depth of connection that we have now in fear of being hurt and like burnt and killed. And I think, like, what a really fucking clever way to ensure women never come together and create such powerful connections and realize their magic and their potentiality in this life and fucking help heal the world. Let's create so much fear so that they never come together in this.
That's a really powerful statement. I've never thought of it like that, Mon. And it's
Mhm.
interesting that you say that because I really see how that is the case. Like, because I felt intuitively then as you were sharing that there's always been this part within me that has been, don't get too close to a woman because what if it's seen as sexual, which is, I don't even know where that came from.
Mm.
But it just makes so much sense as to, yeah, turning women against each other, and not allowing them to come together. Because like we've had this discussion so many times. Like we are literally like a soulmate relationship. Like our
Mhm.
friendship is literally like a fucking twin flame.
Yeah.
Like from the moment that we met each other,
Hmm.
holy shit, to the finishing of each other's conversations now, to the knowing, the deep inner knowing of, I just know something's off.
Hmm.
What's deeply going on, or just holding space. Mhm.
Yeah, it's so special. And in those moments, like, so because Danny lives in Australia and I live in New Zealand, so we aren't like across the road from each other. We are quite far apart, and we will often, like, Danny will message me and be like, "Your energy's off. What's going on?" And she's not with me, and she knows, or she'll tell me things that are coming up in my life that I'm avoiding, or I'm scared to face, or that I need her support in going through, and she'll hold me through them without me asking or telling her what's going on. And I'll do the same for her. And it's just like this feeling, this energetic feeling in your body because our connection is so deep and so profound, and it's just a felt sense. Like there's no fucking logic to our relationship. It won't make sense if I explain it, but it's like this feeling in my body constantly tells me where you are, how you are, and like where you're at, and I can feel that and then express that to you, which is so profound.
Mm. A really interesting phenomenon here is when I did my ayahuasca ceremony, and I remember you said to me, Mon, you were just like, I can't feel you anymore. Why can I not feel you? And it's because for anyone that has ever done ayahuasca before, you know that when you do an ayahuasca ceremony, it is like a complete identity shift. It's like an incredible experience. There is no amount of breath work could potentially take you through something so deep with what you're about to feel, think, know, do, be, see. It's like, yeah, it's incredible. So for anyone that's listening that doesn't know what an ayahuasca ceremony is, it's a plant medicine. It's a plant medicine journey that in most countries is illegal, as most medicines are, right? But yeah, so I embarked on an ayahuasca ceremony. I had the calling, and I had it for a very long time. And month by, like, as soon as you make that commitment, it's like any commitment that you really do, right? Once you pay that deposit, or you make that commitment and you pay money and energy exchange for it, the universe starts to work with you automatically. And the spirit of Mama Aya, whew, she works with you, and she worked with me every moment, every second of every day leading up to that ceremony, and has ever since. And there's been, my life has done a complete 180. But the really beautiful thing is here, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I do that, and you'll come to know that. But the thing here is you came with me, Mon.
Mm,
Right? Even though you weren't there, you energetically came with me. You've never done ayahuasca. But after that, you went through a huge, death and rebirth experience yourself. And
mhm,
yeah, it just back in alignment. It's like one of us goes through this big energetic shift, but then all of a sudden the other one will go through it as well. And that's like that twin flame bond. It's like it's inexplainable, it's indescribable, it's just an inner knowing, like you said. It's a feeling. It's like, oh, something's happening, and then something's happening with me.
mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's so special, and it's like when I was like, I can't feel you, it was because you were going through a death cycle. Like there was a rebirth coming. And so parts of you that I had known in this lifetime were dying. And I was like, what is happening? Like I actually said to Danny, I was like, I'm scared I'm losing you. Like, what is happening? And as we went through, well, you went through Aya, but I went through my own experience. We went through a similar journey and a similar death and a similar rebirth, but I did not go to Aya. And like there were certain things Danny hadn't even told me about her experience that I was experiencing. And then she was like, I experienced that. And it just like it made no logical sense. And we still have this to this day. Like I constantly tell Danny certain things that I'm going through and she's going through them. And it's just such a deep connection. And I think like to make a lot of sense of this is like when we very first met, like in person for the very first time, it was like a scene off a movie.
It really
Like
was.
it was a love scene.
Yes.
Like it was a love scene. It was 5:30 in the morning. We were meeting to watch the sunrise in the Gold Coast. And I was walking along the beach with my hair down, blowing in the wind. And then Danny started walking down, maybe like quite far in the distance, like 300-400 meters. And there was at least like 15 to 20 people on the beach. And as soon as I saw you or I felt you, I like knew it was you. And in my body, I was like, run, like fucking run to her. But in my head, I was like, no, like you're just meeting her for the first time. Like, come the fuck down, Simone. And, and so like we walked up to each other and I just like dropped everything I was holding and we hugged. and our bodies, they just knew. And I started crying and Dani was crying. And I was like, what is happening? I've never felt this before. And it was like this feeling of home and this longing for something I didn't even know I had longing for that I had found. And it was you. It was your soul in this lifetime. And we sat down and we drank cacao and we meditated and we were like having similar meditations about like past lives and like a cabin that we had lived in and like ceremonies we had done and making potions together, like getting burnt together, like all of these memories started to come to us as we sat on the beach together, and it was so special and so beautiful and so wild, like so wild. I didn't even know it was possible to experience that with someone else. And I can remember because we just spent like that weekend together. Like I was so scared to let you go. Like I didn't want you to leave. And it's kind of like, when you're like into, this is like the easiest way to put it for like what would make sense for other people is like, when you're like attracted to someone else romantically and you like want to start dating them and you're like at a party and you know exactly where they are when they're not with you. And you like out of the corner of your eye, you're like, where are they? And you like keep tabs on that person because you're drawn to them. That was me and like is me with you. Like the whole weekend, I was like, where is she? Oh, there she is. I can feel her. Oh yeah. How's she feeling? Like, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm like obsessed with her. Like energetically, I was like, I can't leave you. And I feel like a piece of me is still with you and always will be now because of the connection that we have.
I'm just going to add to that that we'd actually never met in person before. That was the first time that we'd ever met, and we'd met through a space online, a personal development space of working on ourselves, and we were in different groups. We just so happened to cross paths, and within the space when they'd merged together, and then we were both invited to help hold the space of a personal development event with one of our beautiful dear friends. And us meeting for the first time was, yeah, it was literally just as magical as Mon just explained, probably even more than
Mm-hmm.
potentially words could ever explain. Like it, yeah, I just remember being at that event and holding that space and, just consistently looking around, going, where is she? Oh, there is she. My soul's okay now. It's like, oh, just that sense of home. That's home. She's home. You're home to me. And, like I remember on the second day, we went back to the apartment to make cacao for all the girls, and we were like stirring the pots and the cauldrons, and we were just in sync, singing and channeling and humming and dancing and just like looking at each other and going back to our pots. And there was like not a single moment in the entire time that we were together, or now, it's almost been a year almost, since we met in person, that not once has there been a judgment piece come through, a jealousy piece come through. Am I good enough, or is she judging me, or does she like me, or is it too much, or nothing like ever like that has come through with me. And I know that it hasn't with you, because we've had this discussion, and I've never felt that with anyone in my life, not even my own mum. No
Mm-hmm.
one in my life. Like, whoa, holy moly, is this real? I was having this conversation with my son, my youngest child, the other day, and he was like, who is this Mon? And I was like, oh, it's my best friend. And he's like, oh, I can't wait to meet her. She sounds amazing. Like, we will soon, darling. And yeah, it's just aligned, like so aligned. And yeah.
Mhm. I feel like we were gifted this in this lifetime so that we can share it and empower other women. Because we've both experienced so much of the opposite, and we have like the duality of both, and we know how profound and unique this is. That it's such an invitation to share it and let it be the normal. Because the space we have created, like, I can share anything with you, and there is only love. And it's like whatever I'm going through or whatever you're going through, we're going through it together. Like, it's not you, it's not me, it's us. And like, I'm so fiercely protective of you. And I'm so fiercely protective of everyone I love. But it's like that can be a friendship. That doesn't have to be family by blood. And like the healing that this has allowed, like, I understand it's helped me heal my sisterhood wounds around like judgment or fear of like abandonment and friends like leaving me, or I had a lot of fear around like friends mistreating me or like a lack of trust in friendships. And it has allowed me to heal that, but it's also allowed me like to show you my shadows and show you my darkness, and for you to point my blind spots out to me at times, and for me to heal through them, and for you to help me through them, and not to see me as anything less than the beauty and the essence that I am, regardless of the shadows that I have. And it's like, fuck, I can just be myself. I can be all of me in my full essence and tell you all of it. And you still love me. And you still see me as this powerful fucking goddess. And it's like, that's possible because I didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't even know that that was possible for myself to love myself that way, and to love myself in all of my essence, let alone for someone else to love me that way, and for me to love someone else that way. I always knew that, within me, the kind of person that I am, I'm like, I take all of you, I take all of you, whether you're male or female, I love you, just let me give you my love, because that's my childhood wounding, right, is that love piece that I didn't get. So I'm like, you have all of mine. Have
Mm-hmm.
all of my love. But giving that to myself was such a huge piece, but then receiving that on the other end from you has been a whole new level of wowness. Like, this is possible. If this is possible for us, and this is possible for absolutely anyone and
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And, just like you said, Mon, I really believe that we came back in this lifetime, and we made a contract to meet again in this lifetime, like we have many others. And we will share story and other podcasts about, what that's looked like through meditation and through visualization and journeys with what we've seen and felt and done together in other lifetimes, and been killed for in other lifetimes, many times in many different ways as well. I've felt it, like physically felt it through meditation, felt the burning, felt the drowning, felt it. Like, this is available, and this is why that we must come together and create what we're creating now.
Mm-hmm.
Allow that to flourish and allow that to be, and create a space for other women to come together and build those connections as well.
Yeah, I feel that. And it's so beautiful because as me and Dani have been reflecting on what we have together and how unique it is and how we actually don't want it to be unique, we want it to be normalized. We have started to speak into the idea of like, how can we come together as women and genuinely want to see and support and witness and love on other women who are thriving? Like, how can we come together as women and come into deep connection with our bodies and discover the wisdom and the fucking ability to heal and thrive and become everything that we desire in this lifetime. Like, how can we create a sisterhood like I have with Dani, where I have not done any personal development work in over a year? All my healing has been done through friendship, through sisterhood. And that's wild. No one's had to teach me shit. No one's had to guide me through anything. Our friendship has been allowing me to heal to deeper levels with myself. And it's like, we just have this knowing that this gift is here to share, and we have created and are like birthing something out of our vaginas right now.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, keep pushing, baby. But it's like we've created this space, and it's
Got your hand.
we've created the space, and her name is Sacred Sisters Circle, and she is an online space for women where we can come into deep connection with each other and ourselves. And it's a space where we're going to have fortnightly calls, and we're going to sit in circle together, and we are going to all be one in that circle, all equals, and we are going to share, we're going to dance, we're going to show our authenticity and be held in our authenticity, and to receive deep love for who we fucking are without any of the masks, and rise together.
In our bodies.
Yeah.
Our bodies.
We want women to come along with us, to be a part of our friendship. We want more sisters. We want you in with us, and to be on the journey. This is not a space where we're going to teach you. This is not a space where we are the leaders and you are in the circle below us. You are in the circle with us. We are one. And that's how we rise. And so if that feels like a space where you're like, oh, I'm curious, there's a link in the description and you can watch a little bit more information on it, or you can join us. And it's a very low investment. It's only $11.11 a week, because we want as many sisters to have the opportunity to join our Sacred Sister Circle and to heal and thrive with us. Because it's time that we change this narrative.
From all walks of the earth, right? From any country. Like, this is what we've created together in being in separate countries. We created it together. We can create more, a bigger movement within circle, within others. You know, from the magic that you portray, the magic that I portray, and the magic that each and every single one of these women in this planet portray. Every one of us are unique. We all have stories, we all have gifts. And together, when we come together and share as one, we rise, we fucking rise. Women rising, right? Healing the sisterhood wound, healing the abandonment, the jealousy, the hatred, healing the patriarchal conditioning, healing all of it, coming together and being as one. Love.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Woo!
Oh, yeah.
I feel that energy.
Mm.
Mm.
Powerful.
Yeah, we thank you so much for tuning into this episode. And if you found value in it and you loved sitting with us in this little circle on our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating so that we can reach more women and grow more sisters and connect with more of our authenticity together. We love you.
We love you.